The alien billionaire sat alone in his giant office far above the glowing city. Tall towers stretched into the night sky, their lights shining like stars. From his window he could see ships moving in the air lanes, silent and quick. It should have been a peaceful night. Yet something inside him felt strange. He leaned back in his chair, a golden cup of rare wine in his hand. His staff had left for the night and the office was silent. The air hummed only with the sound of machines. He told himself he was safe. After all, he was one of the most powerful businessmen on the planet. His company owned mines, factories, and trade routes. His staff served him with respect. Nobody could betray him. Nobody would dare. Or so he thought. As he turned to the window, he froze. There, standing in the shadows outside his balcony, was a figure. Small, slim, almost invisible against the dark glass. For a moment he thought it was a trick of the light. But then the figure moved, stepping closer. It was a girl. Her skin glowed faintly under the city lights, soft silver, almost like moonlight. Her hair was long and tangled, and her eyes were wide with fear. She looked young, but her presence was strange, as if she had seen things far beyond her years. The alien billionaire's hand tightened on his cup. "Who are you?" he demanded, his voice sharp. Security should have stopped her. The building was locked, guarded, impossible to enter without clearance. The girl did not answer. She pressed her small hands against the glass, leaving faint marks. Her lips moved slowly, carefully. Then in a whisper that seemed to echo through the entire room, she spoke. "Someone's stealing from you." The billionaire blinked. "What did you say?" Her voice was fragile, almost breaking. "Someone close to you. Someone you trust. They are taking what belongs to you. They will destroy you." The billionaire shot up from his chair. His heart pounded. "Nonsense. Who sent you?" But when he moved toward the window, she stepped back. Shadows wrapped around her like a cloak. Her silver glow flickered. She looked over her shoulder as if afraid someone was watching her. "You must listen," she whispered again. "Your house is full of lies. They smile at you, but their hands steal in silence. You think you are safe, but you are not." The billionaire slammed his fist on the glass. "Tell me who." "Give me a name." The girl shook her head. Tears glimmered in her eyes. "If I speak more, they will kill me." And before he could say another word, she turned and vanished. One moment she was there, glowing faintly against the night. The next, the balcony was empty. No sound, no trace, as if she had never been there at all. The alien billionaire stood frozen. His mind spun with disbelief. Who was she? How had she entered his tower? And most of all, was she telling the truth? He returned to his chair, but the golden cup of wine now tasted bitter. He set it down slowly, his eyes narrowing. He thought of his staff, his loyal managers, his smiling assistants, his faithful guards. Could one of them betray him? Or worse, could all of them? He remembered small things he had ignored. A missing shipment that was explained as lost in transit. A financial report with numbers slightly out of balance. A strange hesitation in the eyes of one of his advisors. He had waved these away before, too busy to care. But now the girl's warning pulled them all together into a single dark picture. He pressed a button on his desk. Screens lit up around him, showing files, data, and surveillance. He scrolled through numbers, reports, schedules. His eyes searched for any clue, any proof, but there was nothing clear. Just shadows. Just hints. He leaned back, frustrated. The girl's voice still echoed in his ears. "Someone's stealing from you." His anger rose. No one made a fool of him. If someone dared to betray him, he would find them. He would burn them out of his empire. And yet, deep inside, there was also fear. Fear that she was right. Fear that his great empire, built with decades of effort, was rotting from within. He turned again to the window, staring at the place where she had stood. The city below was still alive with lights, but to him it looked darker now. Untrustworthy. Dangerous. Somewhere in the night, the mysterious girl was hiding. Somewhere among his staff, a traitor waited. And as the billionaire closed his eyes, one thought burned in his mind. Tomorrow he would begin watching everyone. The alien billionaire did not sleep that night. He sat in his chair until the twin suns of morning rose over the city. His eyes were red, his mind heavy, but he could not forget the girl's voice. "Someone's stealing from you." When the doors of his office opened, his staff entered as usual. They greeted him with smiles, bows, and polite words. They placed reports on his desk, spoke about profits, trade ships, and new deals. To anyone else, it looked normal, but to him every word now felt poisoned. He looked at his chief advisor, a tall alien with golden skin. The man spoke of market growth, but his eyes shifted quickly, never staying on the billionaire's face for long. Why does he look away? The billionaire wondered. He looked at his head clerk, who handed him reports with steady hands. But were they really steady? He noticed a slight tremble. Was that fear or guilt? Even his personal assistant, who had served him for 10 years, seemed suspicious now. Her smile looked too perfect, too practiced. He had trusted her more than anyone. But was that the greatest mistake of all? The billionaire's heart raced. Every movement, every gesture, every glance from his staff now looked like a mask. He felt surrounded, trapped inside his own empire. During the day, he tested them quietly. He asked the accountant about the missing shipment. The man explained quickly, too quickly, with smooth words. Prepared answer, the billionaire thought. He asked his assistant about an old trade route. She hesitated only for a moment, but it was enough. Why hesitate unless you are hiding something? He even questioned his bodyguards. They were strong, silent, loyal, or at least they pretended to be. But when he looked into their eyes, he saw only shadows. The warning had poisoned his mind. Where once he saw loyalty, now he saw betrayal. At noon, he retreated to his private chamber. He closed the doors and let out a heavy breath. His hands shook as he poured himself a drink. Am I going mad? He muttered. Or is she right? He remembered the girl's silver glow, her fearful eyes. She had spoken like someone desperate, like someone who wanted to help but could not risk too much. Why had she come to him? How did she know? The drink calmed him, but only a little. He knew one thing for sure: he could not trust anyone. Not until he had proof, so he began watching. That evening, after the staff left, he checked their offices and desks. He scanned their work tablets, their data files, their communication logs. Many looked normal, but here and there he found strange things. A hidden message in one of the clerk's devices. A transaction with numbers that did not match. A missing record that no one had explained. Each small detail by itself was weak, but together, they painted a dangerous picture. He sat in the dark, staring at the glowing screens. His empire was bleeding slowly, like a giant beast with many tiny wounds. Someone was feeding his secrets to rivals. Someone was draining his fortune drop by drop. His mind returned again and again to his staff. They were like family to him once, but now he saw them as vultures waiting to feast. The night was deep when he heard a sound. A whisper. He turned quickly, but the room was empty. He walked to the window. For a moment he thought he saw her again, the silver girl standing in the shadows, but when he blinked, she was gone. Still, her voice seemed to echo inside the room. Your house is full of lies. He closed his fists. Tomorrow, he decided, he would test them. Not openly, but in secret. He would plant false information and see who betrayed him. The billionaire sat back in his chair, his face hard with anger and suspicion. For years, he had ruled with wealth and respect. But now trust was dead. From this day forward, he would see everyone as an enemy until proven otherwise. And somewhere in the city, the mysterious girl watched from the shadows, her silver eyes filled with sorrow. She had warned him once. She knew he would not rest until he tore apart his own house to find the truth. The next day, the alien billionaire arrived early to his office. His eyes were heavy, but his mind was sharper than ever. He had already planted small traps in the company's reports. False data, hidden numbers, secret trade routes that did not exist. He wanted to see who would carry those lies outside. His staff worked as usual, but he barely listened to them. Instead, he watched their faces, their hands, their eyes. Each word they spoke felt like a test. Then something unusual happened. A stranger entered the building. Not an advisor, not a clerk, not even an alien. It was a human. The billionaire raised his brow. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. They were known for their strange courage and reckless honesty. Some aliens admired them, others feared them, but very few trusted them. The man looked simple. Dark hair, plain clothes, a tool bag slung across his shoulder. He was not a businessman. He was a mechanic, called in to repair one of the company's heavy security doors. The billionaire might have ignored him, but something about the human drew his attention. Unlike his staff, the man walked without fear. He did not bow too deeply, did not smile too much, and did not rush his words. When asked about his work, he simply said, "I'll fix the door. Give me 1 hour." The billionaire watched him closely. The human knelt by the broken door, opened his tools, and began working. His movements were steady, honest. Every sound of metal against metal was clear, without deception. The staff, however, were different. They kept glancing at the human, whispering to each other as if nervous. Perhaps they feared being exposed by his presence. At noon, when the billionaire walked past, he saw the human still at work. Sweat covered his forehead, but his eyes were sharp. The billionaire asked, "Do you always work this hard?" The human looked up, shrugged, and smiled. "If a job is worth doing, it's worth doing right." The billionaire froze. Those simple words struck him like lightning. His staff used flowery words, endless excuses, and half-truths. But this human, he spoke with the weight of truth. The billionaire almost wanted to laugh. Could it really be that a human, a mere mechanic, carried more honesty than his most trusted advisors? Later that evening, when most of the staff left, the billionaire found the human still checking the repaired door. He stood nearby, pretending to read a report, but his mind was elsewhere. He thought of the silver girl. Her warning still echoed. Not all thieves take gold. Some steal your future, but what did that mean? The billionaire sighed. "Human," he said suddenly. "Tell me, how do you deal with liars?" The mechanic blinked, surprised by the question. He set down his tool and wiped his hands. "I don't waste time on them," he said simply. "If I find a liar in my crew, I cut him out. A broken gear ruins the whole machine. Better to throw it away than let it destroy the rest." The billionaire stared at him. The human spoke of machines, but his words were sharp like a blade of truth. For the first time in days, the billionaire felt a strange sense of calm. Perhaps this human, this outsider, saw the world more clearly than anyone in his company. But then, just as he was about to leave, a shadow flickered by the far wall. He turned quickly. The girl was there. The silver-skinned girl standing in the corner of the hall, her eyes glowing faintly. The billionaire's heart jumped. He stepped toward her, but she raised a finger to her lips. This time she spoke only one line, her voice soft but heavy with meaning. "Not all thieves take gold. Some steal your future." Then, before he could ask more, she vanished again, melting into the shadows as if she had never been there. The billionaire's chest tightened. He repeated her words again and again. "Some steal your future." What future was being stolen? Was it money, power, or something far greater? He looked back at the human mechanic who was watching him with curious eyes. For a moment, the billionaire felt something rare, trust, but trust was dangerous. Trust had already poisoned him once. The billionaire walked away, his mind a storm. His staff could not be trusted. His empire was leaking secrets. A mysterious girl warned him. And now, a human, a creature from a distant world, had spoken words that cut deeper than all his advisors combined. That night, the billionaire sat alone in his office again. He looked out over the glowing city, but his thoughts were far darker. He whispered to himself, "If gold is not the only thing stolen, what else have I already lost?" The alien billionaire could not rest. Even after the human mechanic left that evening, his mind was burning. The words of the girl and the human echoed together, twisting into one heavy truth. Not all thieves take gold. Some steal your future. But what future? His empire was strong, his wealth endless, his power unmatched. Yet the thought dug deeper into him with each passing hour. So when the last worker left the building and the great office tower fell into silence, he remained behind. He dimmed the lights, locked the doors, and activated private access codes that only he knew. The huge screens in his chamber lit up one by one, flooding the room with blue glow. He began to search. First, he opened the files of his trade division. At a glance, everything looked normal. Numbers balanced, reports signed, shipments listed. But the billionaire had not survived this long by trusting the surface. He dug deeper, cross-checking times, routes, and weights. And there it was. A shipment listed as delivered, but the docking record showed the ship never arrived. He leaned closer. So, it begins. Next, he opened financial records from the mining division. Again, clean at first glance. But in the side ledger, he found strange numbers. Tiny amounts moved across hidden accounts. Not enough to notice in one day, but over years it would drain millions. His hands curled into fists. Parasites. He moved on to security files. This time his chest tightened. Logs were missing, whole days erased from the system, and the guards had signed off with no explanation. Traitors, he growled, his voice low. He slammed the desk, making the screens flicker. For years he had trusted them all. He had given them wealth, protection, status. Yet they had bitten the hand that fed them. Still he needed proof, real proof. So he went further. He hacked into private communication channels of his staff. Messages glowed across the screens, coded, hidden, encrypted. He broke through the locks one after another, and what he saw made his stomach twist. Reports sent to rivals. Data files leaked in secret. Names of his trusted allies listed like items for sale. His empire was not just bleeding. It was being carved apart piece by piece. The billionaire leaned back, breathing hard. His empire had been his pride, his life. And now it was nothing more than a banquet for vultures. He stared at the screens, anger burning in his chest. But under the anger was fear, a fear he never admitted before because now he understood the girl's words. Gold could be replaced. Ships could be rebuilt. But futures? Futures were stolen when knowledge was given to enemies. Futures were destroyed when loyalty was dead. Futures were lost when trust was broken, and his future was already slipping away. Suddenly, the lights in his office flickered. A soft shadow moved in the corner of the room. He turned sharply. The silver-skinned girl stood there again. She was quiet, her eyes filled with sadness as she looked at the glowing screens. She did not need to speak. She saw what he had uncovered. Still, she whispered, "Do you see now? You are surrounded by wolves." The billionaire stepped forward. His voice was hard. "Tell me their names. Tell me who started this." But the girl only shook her head. "If I speak, I die. You must see with your own eyes. You must choose." Her figure shimmered, fading like mist in the morning. And then she was gone again, leaving only silence. The billionaire clenched his fists. He hated her cryptic words, yet he could not deny them. She was right, he had seen enough. By dawn, he had made his decision. Tomorrow he would test his staff. He would feed them false information, different lies for different people. Whoever leaked it would reveal themselves. And when he knew the truth, there would be no mercy. He stood at the window, looking out over the city. The suns were rising, casting golden light across the towers. To the people below, it was just another beautiful day, but to him it was war, war against liars, war against thieves, war against his own house. The billionaire whispered to himself, "They think me blind. They will soon learn. I see everything." And somewhere in the endless city, the girl watched from the shadows, waiting to see if he would truly burn his house to the ground to save his future. The alien billionaire arrived at his tower with a heavy heart but sharp eyes. Last night had shown him the truth. His empire was bleeding from within. But today, he would know the names of the traitors. He sat at his desk as his staff filed in, smiling and bowing as always. Their polite words rang hollow in his ears. He looked at each one carefully, the advisor with the golden skin, the nervous clerk, the assistant with the perfect smile. Masks, he thought. All of them masks. The test was already in motion. He had created false reports, each one carrying a different secret, a trade deal that never existed. A mine that was said to be closing. A shipment route that was false. He gave one false secret to each of them, then waited. At first, the day passed quietly. The staff worked as normal. Papers moved across desks, voices filled the air. But by evening, he saw the results. His surveillance drones caught signals leaving the tower, encrypted messages slipping into the air like smoke. Each message carried one of his false secrets. His trap had worked. The billionaire's chest tightened as he looked at the screens. The traitors were not just one or two. They were many. The advisor, the clerk, even his assistant. Almost his entire staff had betrayed him. For a long moment he sat in silence, staring at their names. His empire was rotten to the core. That night he prepared himself. The next morning he summoned them all to the great hall of the tower. Dozens of staff gathered, whispering nervously. The billionaire sat on his high chair, his face hard as stone. When the hall was silent, he stood. For years, he began, his voice echoing. "I gave you wealth. I gave you power. I gave you trust. And this is how you repay me?" The staff shifted uncomfortably. Some bowed their heads, others forced fake smiles. The billionaire's eyes burned. "Do not pretend. I know what you have done," gasps filled the hall. The advisor with golden skin stepped forward, raising his hands. "My lord, surely this is a mistake. We would never—" "Silence!" the billionaire roared. His voice shook the walls. "Do you think me blind? I fed each of you lies, and you carried them like rats to my enemies. I saw the messages with my own eyes." The room fell still. The guilty ones froze in shock, while the few innocent workers looked terrified. The assistant's perfect smile finally cracked. The clerk's trembling grew worse. The advisor's face turned pale. The billionaire stepped down from his chair, his footsteps heavy on the marble floor. He walked among them slowly, like a predator circling prey. "You thought you could steal my gold, but you stole more than that. You stole my future. You sold my empire piece by piece to those who wish me destroyed." No one dared to breathe. At the far end of the hall, the human mechanic stood quietly watching. He had been called to repair a console, but now he saw the storm unfolding. The billionaire turned back to his staff. "There is no forgiveness for betrayal." Then, with one sharp gesture, he called in his guards. Heavy doors slammed shut and armed soldiers stepped into the hall. The staff erupted into panic. Some cried for mercy, others shouted their innocence, but the billionaire's face remained hard. "You chose this path," he said coldly. "You will walk it to the end." The guards began dragging them away one by one. The advisor struggled. The assistant wept. The clerk fell to his knees. But none escaped. The hall that once echoed with the sound of polite greetings now thundered with cries of fear. The billionaire watched it all with cold eyes. His empire would be clean again, even if it meant burning half of it down. As the last traitor was dragged out, silence returned to the hall. The billionaire stood alone, his breath heavy. Then, from the shadows near the pillars, the silver girl appeared once more. She looked at him with sorrowful eyes. "You see now. Wolves wore the faces of sheep." The billionaire's voice shook. "I see too much. I see that trust is a lie." The girl tilted her head. "Perhaps. Or perhaps trust must be given to those who know its value." Her gaze shifted to the human mechanic standing quietly at the edge of the hall. The billionaire followed her eyes. But when he turned back, the girl was gone, vanished like mist once again. The hall was silent. But the echoes of betrayal remained. The billionaire whispered to himself, "From this day I will trust only the eyes that see truth, even if they belong to an outsider." The hall of the tower was empty now. The cries of the traitors had faded into the distance. The guards had dragged them all away, leaving only silence behind. The alien billionaire stood alone at the center, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. His empire was clean again, or so he told himself, but instead of peace he felt a strange emptiness inside. Was this victory, or had he only destroyed the walls of his own house? His thoughts were interrupted by a voice. "You look tired." The billionaire turned sharply. It was the human mechanic. He still stood near the broken console, tools in hand, calm as if none of the chaos had touched him. The billionaire narrowed his eyes. "You are still here?" The human gave a small shrug. "The door still needs fixing. And besides, I was curious to see how you'd handle your problem." The billionaire's face darkened. "Problem? My empire was being eaten alive. I cut out the poison." The human tilted his head. "Maybe. But when you cut too much, even the healthy parts bleed." The billionaire's jaw tightened. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Not his advisors, not his guards, not even his rivals. They all spoke with fear, with caution. But this human. He spoke with blunt honesty. The billionaire stepped closer. "Then tell me, human, what would you have done?" The mechanic put down his tool, wiping his hands on a cloth. He looked straight into the billionaire's eyes, without bowing, without fear. "A machine doesn't fail all at once," he said. "It breaks piece by piece. A loose gear, a worn wire, a weak bolt. If you only punish the machine, it keeps breaking. But if you replace the broken parts and tighten the rest, the machine works again." The billionaire frowned. "You compare my empire to a machine?" The human nodded. "It's the same. You built this empire like an engine, didn't you? But if you throw away every part, what remains? You'll have no machine at all." The billionaire's chest tightened. His mind replayed the image of the empty hall, the seats where his staff once stood. He had fired them all, dragged them out in shame. Now his empire was hollow. Then what should I do? he asked quietly. The human's voice was steady. You need new parts. Not perfect ones. Not flawless. Just parts that fit and stay loyal. If you find people who know the value of trust, build again with them. Don't patch the rot, replace it with something stronger. The billionaire stared at him. The words were simple, but they cut deeper than any advisor's speech. For years he had ruled with wealth and power, but he had built his empire on shallow loyalty. Money could buy obedience but not trust. He had never understood that until now. The human picked up his tools again. You can throw away everything or you can rebuild. That's your choice. But remember, no machine, no matter how rich, works without the right hands to keep it alive. The billionaire stood silent for a long time. The human's honesty was like a mirror, forcing him to see the truth. Finally, he said, Why do you speak to me this way? Are you not afraid? The human smiled faintly. Why should I be afraid? I'm not here for your gold. I'm here to do my job. Fear belongs to liars, not to me. The billionaire let out a slow breath. For the first time in days, he felt a strange sense of calm. Not because his problems were gone, but because someone had shown him a different path. He looked at the human and said, Perhaps you are right. Perhaps the future is not stolen, it is built. Just then, the silver-skinned girl appeared again, standing in the shadows of the hall. Her eyes glowed softly as she looked at them both. She whispered, Your future will not be saved by fear. It will be saved by those who refuse to sell it. The billionaire turned to her, but she was already fading, her form dissolving into the air. He looked back at the human. This time he did not see just a mechanic. He saw something more. A rare piece of the machine he had always been missing. The billionaire straightened his shoulders. Tomorrow I begin again. But this time, I will choose carefully. And maybe, I will start with you. The human gave no bow, no promise, no false smile. He only said, If you want the machine to work, I'll help you keep it running. And for the first time in years, the billionaire allowed himself the smallest of smiles. The alien billionaire stood at the top of his tower, staring out over the endless city. The suns had set, and the towers glowed with thousands of lights. To the people below, it was just another night of trade, wealth, and celebration. But for him, this night was different. His empire had been cracked open. His staff were gone, their betrayals burned into his memory. The silver-skinned girl's warning still echoed in his heart. Not all thieves take gold. Some steal your future. He had almost lost that future. Almost. But now he had a choice. Behind him, the human mechanic worked quietly, repairing a damaged console. His hands were steady, his movements calm. He was not afraid of the silence or the weight of the tower. He was not here for gold, status, or power. He was simply real. The billionaire turned. Human. The mechanic looked up. Yes? The billionaire walked closer, his long coat sweeping the floor. Tell me, why should I trust you when all others have failed me? The human put down his tool. He thought for a moment, then spoke with the same simple honesty he always carried. Because I don't want what you have. I only care about what I build with my own hands. Trust doesn't come from words, it comes from showing up every day even when no one is watching. The billionaire studied him. No advisor had ever spoken like this. No servant had ever dared. Yet the words felt heavier, more valuable, than all the gold in his vaults. Silence stretched between them until the billionaire finally said, Then perhaps you are the first piece of a new machine. The human smiled faintly. Machines are only as strong as the parts you choose. Choose wisely this time. The billionaire turned back to the window. His reflection stared at him, tired, proud, and wounded. For decades he had ruled with wealth. But wealth had not protected him. Wealth had only attracted vultures. Now he understood. The foundation of an empire was not gold, but trust. Suddenly the air in the chamber shifted. A cold breeze whispered across the room. The silver-skinned girl appeared again, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She looked calmer this time. No longer trembling, no longer afraid. You have made your choice, she said softly. The billionaire stepped forward. Why do you care for me? Who are you? Her gaze lingered on him for a long moment. Then she spoke words that made his chest tighten. Once, long ago, I worked within your house. I warned you in silence, but you never saw me. I left before they could use me against you. Yet when I saw the rot grow, I could not stay away. His breath caught. You were one of them? She shook her head. I was never theirs. I was always yours. But you were blind then. You only looked at power, not at truth. The billionaire's voice dropped. Why help me now? Her silver glow flickered like a flame. Because your empire is more than trade and gold. It is a wall that protects many who cannot protect themselves. If it falls, others will suffer. I could not let that happen. The billionaire's throat tightened. He wanted to ask more, but she raised her hand. My time here is ending. You will not see me again. Your future is in your hands now. Her form shimmered, fading like mist until only the glow of her eyes remained. Then even that was gone. The billionaire stood frozen, the silence heavy around him. The human mechanic stepped forward. She gave you a gift, the human said. A warning. You should honor it. The billionaire turned, his face hard but his eyes softer than before. Yes, from this day I will not build with gold alone. I will build with truth even if it means trusting an outsider. The human lifted his tool bag. Then let's get to work. Machines don't fix themselves, the billionaire almost smiled. For the first time in years he felt not just powerful but alive. He looked out at the city one last time. His empire had nearly been stolen, but now it had a chance to be reborn. And though the girl was gone, her words would never leave him. Not all thieves take gold. Some steal your future. This time he would guard both.